Today we are looking at Angels of Aslan, issue 6 from 2009. This is by Jeff Parkman, a great writer who never got a shot at the big titles. And the art is by Hardman, a decent artist who doesn't do all that much now. This is a book by people who unfairly do not do much comic book work now. Even the cover artist, Lionel Who, I didn't see his name cropping up on stuff much anymore. And he was a pretty dependable artist for a solid 20 or so years. If you didn't know diddly squat about Angels of Aslan, I will explain it all after this cute little recap page done in the style of some pirate malarkey. There are some things about this team that aren't really worth mentioning in this because they are not relevant in this two-part story. Our team is comprised of a bunch of characters printed by Marvel in the 50s. The team itself first debuted in the 70s in an issue of What If, which was canon, but then it wasn't canon, and then it was loosely canon again. I reviewed that issue, and I was a bit hard on it. I think I came off harsher than I should, but I stand by it being an underwhelming story. The team were originally created by Roger Thomas, obviously, and they all came from publications that were from the 50s, when Marvel was known as Timely and then Atlas. Some of those characters appeared long after the 50s, and they were still appearing in comics in the 70s when that issue was published. But that issue was one of two issues of the original volume of What If that were considered canon. The events of it were even mentioned in the index at the back of the third issue of Conquest of Champagne. And if Marky Mark Griswold says that something is canon, then it is bloody canon. The setup, which made it different to other issues of What If, was that Iron Man had gathered the Avengers to tell them about this thing that he had found out and watch the story happen on a view screen. The thing was, in that story, the short-lived team who were disbanded by the end of the story, they adopted the moniker The Avengers. It was a harmless story, just a little retcon into Marvel history to add a team into the 50s era and give some of the characters connections to others. Totally harmless. Nobody referred to it again for 30 years, and that was fine. It didn't need a GAN anyway if people were not interested in GANning anywhere with that idea. Then Kurt Busey and Tom Beevort came along, and they thought that another team existed before the Avengers, who called themselves Avengers, was destructive to the legacy of the Avengers. So Kurt Busey made it so that it was now set on another reality, and then totally erased that reality from existence. Tom Brevoort, man of integrity as always, he later thought that it was okay to retcon a team into the 50s who openly called themselves the Avengers, as long as his darling Michael Bryan Benson did it with more bland and inappropriate characters like Sabreclaw, who shouldn't ever be anywhere near the title of Avenger. Before that, though, in 2006, the original team were brought back by Jeff Parkman, and the book was originally meant to be called Secret Avengers until Tom Brevoort said no. The events from that issue of What If were quickly re-established as having happened, albeit loosely, and now they were never calling themselves Avengers. And over time, these events became more and more true to the issue of What If. If anyone wants to see more, I have also reviewed a pair of issues from this series already, where I probably explain all of this again. Anyway, after that long introduction, we get to their first ongoing title here, which is a good series. And this story is going to have the team meet up with Seaman. If you are a fan of Seaman, and I am thinking of one of my regular viewers in particular, who I have shown extracts of this story to already. If you like the character, this story really does right by him. He is characterised correctly. He's not just a mean jackass. He has got a sense of nobility and honour, and he displays actual gratitude. The reason we are doing a two-part story with Seaman is because one of the members of Angels of Aslan is Sea-Woman. I won't give a crash course on her history, but she was introduced in the late 40s as a co-star / love interest to Seaman. So far in Angels of Aslan, Jeff Parkman had yet to have Seaman appear or do anything with him and Sea-Woman's relationship. Also, they are cousins, which makes their pairing as love interests bizarre. All I can say is that it is Seaman. He doesn't care about the surface world's laws on decency or age of consent. He cares as little for the surface world's opinions on banging his cousin as I do for the musical stylings of the band Ween. SeaWorld looks really neat though. Its depiction in this issue is great. It had been a long time since I think SeaWorld actually looked magical and whimsical. SeaWorld actually looks like a kingdom and full of life, rather than just an underwater city. It is also time to talk about the state of SeaWorld continuity. SeaWorld was meant to have been destroyed by this point, but here Jeff Parkman establishes the existence of new SeaWorld, and he explains how it was built and pretty quickly became a viable replacement for SeaWorld. And this works to explain away darling Michael Bryan Benson and others plain ignoring that SeaWorld was meant to have been destroyed. The other thing, I'll talk about this here because we have this excellent splash page introduction to Seaman here. At this point, we are dealing with one of my least favourite things ever, and that is, at the time of this, Seaman was a member of the Excellent Men. Now, Jeff Portman's introduction of New SeaWorld and how he sufficiently justifies how it is basically as good as SeaWorld, it is well intentioned, but no writer ever refers to this again. New SeaWorld, this habitat established here, is ignored, never shows up again. You see, in Excellent Men, one of the ideas was that without his kingdom, Seaman had relocated his followers to the ocean surrounding the Excellent Men's island base. Seaman, he was part of the Excellent Men, but even his subjects were considered part of the Excellent Men. And yeah, I prefer this. I prefer just giving them SeaWorld back and getting them the fuck away from the Excellent Men, where he doesn't belong. We have great character stuff in this. Sea Woman and Seaman reuniting. And as I said, Seaman is written the best that he had been written in quite a while. Don't worry, there is a story besides two characters flirting. The team and Seaman, they get into a classic misunderstanding fight when Uranus Boy reads Seaman's mind and then he shapeshifts into this fishy monster thing. And so we get a big action set piece. And now that I have not gone over who the other characters on Angels of Aslan are, but that is because there's only one of them besides Sea Woman that is important towards this plot, and he is more so in the next issue. But one of the quirks of Angels of Aslan comics is that I call this character up here Friday, and I have no recollection as to why. I have asked in videos before if anyone can work it out, to no success. My current working theory is that there may have been a recap page where they have her and they have her name, and then in the description underneath they call her a Girl Friday. My other thought process was that maybe Bananarama had a song called Friday, but they didn't. Here is some incest, and the two of them are going to get married. Let's end with this justification here. Feel free to read this at your leisure. I am not saying it aloud because I didn't want to give voice to any acceptance of what could be perceived as incest. My stance on incest is that I am against it, but mainly because my family are ugly and I wouldn't want to shag any of them. This is a good issue and a good story. If you missed out on Angels of Aslan, worth ganning back and checking out the first mini-series and this short ongoing. Right now, I have got to push the 7 thumbs and make 'em come up.